Hi everyone, welcome back in this video tutorial. In this video, we will create a DroidScript application that uses PocketBase database and integrates OAuth2 Authorization in signing in and signing up our users. In this tutorial, we will be using Google OAuth2 Authorization, but you can use other OAuth2 providers such as GitHub or Facebook. I am here connected in my Wi-Fi IDE and I have already opened this PocketBase native application which we have set up in our previous video. I highly recommend that you watch the previous video regarding the authorization, email verification, and also the real-time chat application because we will be using real-time subscription to our collection in PocketBase database. Okay, so here at the top, I have loaded the PocketBase JavaScript SDK, and here inside my onStart function, I have initialized our PocketBase database. Before I will start coding, I have here the steps that we need to go along in this tutorial. Number one, we will going to enable OAuth 2 for Google provider in PocketBase. We will create OAuth2 client in Google console because we will need the client ID and client secret to enable this in our PocketBase database. And number two, we'll create temp users or temporary users in our collection in PocketBase with the token and records fields. This will serve as a temporary storage for the auth data when a Google account is authorized. Okay, so number three, create a login and redirect HTML pages. And since we need an actual domain, so if you are subscribed to Premium Plus account, you already have the DroidScript.cloud domain for your account. So we will use that one. Number four, add one-time record into the temp users collection. So this will happen in our DroidScript application. In our DroidScript application, we will create a one-time record in our temp users collection, and we will get that ID of that record. And we will subscribe to that record for any events, okay, especially update action, and authenticate the DroidScript application when a token and a record is received from this event, and delete the records afterwards for security purposes, okay, because that record holds the token and auth data, so we need to delete that from our temp users collection. And then six, open the login page URL passing the record ID. Okay, this will happen in our login page.html, and we will save that record ID and provider in our login page. And then when a user is authorized in the redirect URL, we will update the record in the temp users collection. This is the purpose of passing the record ID in that login.html, so that in our redirect URL or redirect page, we will update that record in the temp users collection to save the authorized token and user data. This may be complicated for now, but bear with me. I will walk you through the process of integrating this OAuth2 authorization. Maybe you are asking right now, is there a simple way to do this? I have tried a recommended way to integrate OAuth2 authorization in an application, but DroidScript doesn't support pop-up the way regular browsers do, so we cannot use the simplest method in our DroidScript application. Okay, so number one, we will enable first our OAuth2 for Google provider in PocketBase. So let's go back to our UI dashboard for PocketBase, and then click this settings icon here, this wrench icon here. Click that one and navigate to authentication and auth providers. Okay, click this one. Okay, for now, we don't have an enabled auth providers. So I will use Google, but as I've said, you can use Facebook, Microsoft, or GitHub, or any other OAuth2 providers right there. So I'll just click this gear icon, and then we will need a client ID and a client secret. So we will get this from console.google.com. So open a new tab and navigate to console. Okay, console.cloud.google.com. Okay, navigate to console.cloud.google.com and select a project that you want to associate your OAuth2 client. So for now, I'll select Engineer's Life, but you can select your own project here. You have also the option to create a new project. Here in the quick access, you have this APIs and services, but if you don't find this, click this menu here and click this APIs and services. Here in the APIs and services, click this credentials. Okay, so here we don't have an OAuth2 client IDs. Click this create credential at the top. Create credential and select this OAuth2 client ID. So we have the API key and service accounts here at the bottom. So click the second one, OAuth client ID. Here, we will need to select the application type. Since we are authorizing our user from the browser, we will select this web application, and we will name our client ID into sample cloud client, and then authorized JavaScript origin. We can add our DroidScript.cloud URL here because I'll be using our DroidScript cloud to host our login and redirect pages. Jumar.DroidScript.cloud. So this is my DroidScript cloud URL, and here in the authorized redirect URIs, we will add this URL of ours and then /redirect.html. This is the URL where Google sends the code when it has authorized a Google account. And then click this create button. Okay, so auth client is created. Okay, so from here we have this pop-up. You can download this file as JSON and save them safely in your computer. But for now, I'll just copy this one, this client ID. So we need this client ID and this client secret. Copy this client ID and go back into our PocketBase database dashboard and paste the client ID here and go back again to our APIs and services. Copy this client secret and paste this one also in this client secret field and then save changes. Okay, so now we have enabled our Google OAuth2 provider. Our next step is create a temp users collection with token and record fields, and this will serve as our temporary storage. So in our database collections, in this collection section, create a new collection with a name temp users, and then it will have two fields, plain text of token, and then the second one is plain text also of records. And here in the API rules, I will just unlock everything for now. Hit create. Okay, so now we have successfully created our temp users collections. Okay, the next step is create the login and redirect HTML pages. So going back into our PocketBase documentation, navigate to authentication, click this OAuth2 integration, and here we have this all-in-one. Okay, the recommended way, but since we are not capable of doing this in our DroidScript application, we will use this manual code exchange. So click this tab, and then here we have predefined templates for our login and our redirect HTML pages. So we'll just copy this first. This will be our login page. Okay, I will just copy this one, and in our cloud extension, click this files tab because we will be hosting our login page and our redirect pages in our DroidScript cloud. So we'll go to this home and public folder. Okay, this is where we create our login page. Okay, login.html. Okay, so double click this one to open the file. Okay, just click this pencil icon to edit this file, and I will just paste this code. Okay, so right here at the top, you see that the URL is this default. So I'll go to our code and just copy this URL. Okay, this is the URL for our database dashboard. Just paste here. Our redirect URL will be, just paste also our DroidScript cloud URLs. Remove this DB. So jumar.droidscript.cloud/redirect.html. I will also create a redirect.html file. Okay, open this one. This is the page where Google will send the code when it has authorized a Google account. Go again to our PocketBase documentation, and here at the second redirect handler page, we'll just copy this one. So this is our redirect page. Okay, go back again to our cloud extension and paste this one in our redirect.html. I'll just copy our database URL. Okay, so here in this database URL, and I also want to copy this one in this redirect URL. So we have jumar, okay, .droidscript.cloud. Hit save. Okay, we are done in this third step. And the fourth step is add a one-time record into our temp users collection. So we'll now start coding our application. First, I will just check if our authentication is valid. So I will say console.log is valid, pb.authstore.is valid. So this is the way to check if our user is currently logged into our database. Let's check this one. Is valid is false. So we are not currently logged into our database. And then we will create a one-time record in our temp users collection. So pb.collection, okay, temp users. Okay, I think I need to save this temp users in a call variable. So I will just pass here call.create. I will just create a record with no token and no record. So empty object. And then I will pass an options of fields ID. This means that I will only get the ID field in our record in our temp users collection. And since this is an asynchronous function, I can listen to then record. Okay, so and if there's an error, we'll just console.log that error. So here, the next step is we will subscribe to that record for any events. pb.collection call.subscribe. Since we are subscribing to an event on that specific record that we have created here at the top, we will pass an ID in this subscribe method. Record.id. And we'll pass our callback function on sign in. So I'll just implement this function on sign in here at the bottom. It will receive an event. So next step is authenticate the DroidScript app when a token and record is received and delete the record afterwards. First, I will just unsubscribe to that record and then delete that record for now. We will implement our login process later. So after we complete the following steps, so I'll just say to unsubscribe, pb.collection call.unsubscribe. This event has a record, so event.record.id. And then we will going to delete that record for security purposes. So pb.collection call delete event.record.id. And here, sign in this device. Okay, next is open the login page URL passing the record ID. After we subscribe to that record in our temp users collection, we'll call app.openURL. Okay, we will open our login page.html in a browser. https:/our DroidScript.cloud/login.html passing the record ID. So we need to pass the record ID here. So just say id equals record.id. Since we pass the ID in our login.html, we need to get that record ID. Below this redirect URL, I'll just paste this one. Okay, to get the record ID, URL.search params.get the ID. It will return this record.id. And together with this provider that we save in our local storage, we'll also save this one. Okay, I'll just copy this one. Okay, copy this record ID and just paste this one here. Just like the OAuth2 provider, we also save the record ID. Click save. Okay, so the process here in this login page.html is very simple. So we have here loaded the JavaScript, PocketBase JavaScript SDK here at the top. And then we initialize our PocketBase database, passing our database URL. And we also have our redirect URL. And then here in this load links function, we list the auth methods that we have enabled in our OAuth2 providers. Okay, we know for sure that it will return 1 and 3 because we only enabled Google. And then it will render a list control with the enabled OAuth2 providers. And if that list item is clicked, it will save the provider in our local storage in the browser. And we also saved our record ID in the local storage. And after that, it will navigate to this provider.auth URL and passing our redirect URL. Our provider, which is Google, will then handle the authorization, and if the authorization is successful, it will then send the code into our redirect URL. We also need to edit our redirect URL. The same as our login HTML, here at the top, we also loaded the JavaScript PocketBase SDK. We initialize our PocketBase database, and then we also have here our redirect URL. Here, we just get the params that we have received from our provider, which is Google. In this code, we just get the provider data that we have saved in our local storage. And I will also get the record ID that I have saved together with this provider data. So I'll just copy this one and record ID, const record ID. This is the record ID that we have saved in our login.html. And here, we will just authenticate a user after we receive a code from provider. We will authenticate the user in our users collection or in our users auth collection using this auth with OAuth2 code, passing our provider name, Google, and then passing our OAuth2 code, and then our code verifier, and passing also our redirect URL. This one right here is an optional object that we want to save in our users collection, maybe the username of this Google account. If we have successfully authorized a user, it will call this, then call back passing this auth data object, which contains the raw user data that comes from Google. Example, the username, last name, first name, and also the profile picture. Maybe you want to save that one in your users collection. And then it will also return the authorization token and the authorization record from the users collection. In this callback, we will update the record in our temp users collection. This is the purpose of this record ID so that we can update the exact record in our temp users collection. So here I will just say pb.collection temp users.update. We'll pass this record, and then we have the token and we also have the record in our temp users collection. So the token will be auth data.token and the record will be auth data.record. And since this is an object, we'll call json.stringify because our record field in our temp users collection is a plain text. Okay, so if this update is successful, our onSign-in event will be fired. Okay, so this event will contain the token and record from this update process right here. This temp users, you may also need to pass this just like this record ID for security purposes. I'll go back into our code. The next step is in our onSign-in, we will authenticate the DroidScript application when a token and record is received and delete the record afterwards. So we already deleted that record here. And we will now sign in this DroidScript application or this client. But before we sign in, we'll check first if the action is equal to update. If event.action is equal to update, we can now authorize this DroidScript application by calling pb.authstore event.save event.record.token, and we also need to pass the record or the user data into this save function. So event.record.record. We know that this record field in our object is a stringified object, so we'll call json.parse passing our event.record.record. We will console.log if the authorization is valid in this scenario. But before that, I will go to our APIs and services. I just closed this one. And here in OAuth consent screen, since this is in the testing phase, I will add my email as a tester in this client. Okay, so here I just set up the PocketBase native app in this consent screen. So you can change this into the name that you want. Since we are in the testing phase, we'll need to add our test users. I have no test users for now. I'll add my email account. We now have added our first test users. If you are ready to publish your application, click this publish app, and these are the requirements that you need to provide to Google so that they can verify your application and publish your app. Okay, so here in our application, we will try to run this application and see if we have errors. Okay, so I have here is valid false. You can see in my phone that it opens our login.html page and it displays this login with Google because we only enabled Google in our OAuth2 provider. Click this login with Google. Okay, so select an account. We'll select this account of mine. Okay, continue. Okay, authenticating. Okay, so we have an error authenticating because when we save our record ID, we didn't change that provider text into a record ID. So okay, open your login.html. Here in this local storage.set item, this should be a record ID. So copy this one and paste that one here. Save. Okay, go back again into our application and run this application again. Okay, is valid false. Open URL. Okay, log in with Google. Okay, select this account and then continue. Now it displays this data into our redirect page. We have the meta property. Okay, we have also the raw user from this meta property. We have every details from this Google account. We have the avatar URL and also the profile picture. And here we have record. This is the actual data that is authenticated in our PocketBase database. And we have also the token right here. Here in our DroidScript application, we have an error. It says that undefined is not a valid JSON, line 1. So I think this one right here is not a valid JSON. Event.record.record is not a valid JSON. Let's go back into our database collection, temp users. Okay, so we have this records. We'll just rename this one into record because that's a single record in our users collection. Save changes. Okay, we'll go back again into our code. Okay, and run again this application. Here in our device, we open the browser. Log in with Google because that's the only OAuth2 provider that we have enabled. Okay, now we have successfully logged into the browser, and then here you can see here in our DroidScript application that is valid is true, and now we have successfully logged in or signed in our DroidScript application using Google's OAuth2 authorization. We can then close this browser. You can design the redirect page that tells the user to close the page and go back into their application. Remember here, first is valid equals false. Now we should expect that this first is valid equals true because our DroidScript application has already been signed in into our PocketBase database. So if we run this one again, we can see that is valid equals true. Okay, I will just say return here to not open that browser again. So run this one, is valid equals true. You can also console.log here the data, console.log json.stringify pb.authstore.model. This model property holds the user data that has been authenticated in our PocketBase database in our application. If we run this one, we can now see this authenticated user data in our application. I'll just say null2 to display this nicely in our debug tab. Okay, so we now have our authenticated user data. We have this email, our ID, and our username, and our verified is true. The nice thing about authenticating or signing in or signing up users in our PocketBase database using OAuth2 integration or authorization is that they are verified automatically. So we don't have to send email verifications to those emails because they are verified already. Okay, so if we refresh our temp users, we don't have token and user data saved here in this temp users collection because it is deleted before we authorize our users in this on sign in function right here. So this pb.collection that delete the event.record. These two record right here are not deleted because we have encountered errors in running our DroidScript application. If we navigate our users collection and refresh this one, so we have this email and username, it is now already verified. So that's all in this video. We have successfully integrated OAuth2 Authorization in our DroidScript application using PocketBase database. I hope you find this video helpful. Tune in for more upcoming videos in this video tutorial series. Thank you guys, and see you in the next one.